The only way for skinny guys to get jacked is you need to find an enemy. You need to find someone you're trying to beat. And this is kind of contrary to what everybody else is telling you. No other fitness influencer is going to tell you this. Well, I'm going to tell you this straight up. The reason why you're not fired up the way you should be about reaching your fitness goals, the way you're not maniacal about it, the way you're not like, you're not really serious about it, you keep stop starting, you can't find a consistent routine, is because you don't have the drive. You don't have an enemy, right? You don't have the right enemies to propel you forward. When I'm talking about enemy, what do I mean by this? So I read a book recently by Patrick Bet-David, he's a GOAT, and it talked about choosing your enemies wisely, right? And so the book talks about choosing your enemies wisely and choosing enemies that bring something out of you. Choosing enemies that bring the best out of you, that bring a certain fire out of you. An enemy you're trying to beat, something that produces an emotion that forces you to grow, that forces you to be like, nah, screw this guy, screw this situation. Like, I need to fight back against this thing, right? Because that's what's gonna drive you to do great things. Right? And enemies doesn't have to be a specific person. It can be a situation, a circumstance, whatever the case may be. And when I was reading this book, I looked back and I realized, wow, like I actually had enemies that drove me unconsciously when I started my fitness journey, and that's what made me so consistent, right? I'll go into a little bit of a story of my past of what kind of enemies I had that drove me to get into my fitness journey. But before I do that, make sure you book a one-on-one coaching call. If you're looking to get in the best shape of your life and need a custom plan to do that, you're looking to put on some muscle, start fitting your clothes properly, I'm the guy for that. I got you. Hit the link in the description and we'll see if it makes sense to work together so we can make a custom plan for you to reach your fitness goals for 2025. Let's get it. I'll be happy to work with you soon. But back to schedule programming. So a couple years ago, back in high school, I think it's about 5-7 years ago now, I can't even remember. I graduated year of 18. Hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. So back 5-7 years ago, I was in high school, right? I was the skinny kid, I've always grown up, I've always been like the skinny kid. I've always been the skinny, athletic kid who I played basketball. I was like the skinny, fast type. I wasn't like a big and strong type. I was always skinny and fast, right? So I always play sports like basketball. I played soccer. I had hops too. I could yam and everything, being 5'10", and I wasn't really like the strong type. It was kind of funny though, because the coaches would always want me to play football, even though I didn't have like size to me. I was just really quick, right? And so my whole life, I've always just been skinny, and and I hated, and it made me feel weak, and I hated that, because back in the days when I was like in elementary school, I used to get kind of bullied sometimes, I don't know if kids still do this nowadays, but kids will sometimes play games like tackle kind of stuff, tackle game. You would tackle each other. And I was always the one getting tackled to the ground. I was always the weakest kid being tackled every time, right? Because I was just skinny. I didn't have meat to me. I was just bone. Like I'd always get tackled to the ground, tossed around, whatever, right? It made me feel weak. It made me feel insignificant, right? And with that being said, like things like that, and even in high school, as I got older, I would always hoop at the rec centers in my city and stuff, and I would always be like afraid of like getting jumped, because I would always hear rumors of people getting jumped and their shoes being stolen at rec centers. So then, that was also something that really pissed me off, because I wanted to just play basketball in peace. I don't want to get jumped around. I'm just trying to play ball and have fun, right? And these situations, just feeling weak and being tackled all the time and having this fear of getting jumped and just people having their way with me, just feeling insignificant, feeling weak, feeling like a victim, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just felt like I had to change. I had to recreate myself, right? I had to put on some muscle. I had to put on some size, and that drove me, because it really pissed me off, because it's like, I don't want to be weak. I don't want to be insignificant and like be treated like, I could be pushed around easily, right? I want to go places and just feel competent. I wanted to feel competent in myself. I wanted to feel like I can hold my own, right? And those enemies, bullies pushing you around, tackling you to the ground, being scared of being jumped and stuff like that. Those were enemies that drove me to get on my fitness and drove me to get in shape. those were the kind of enemies that I needed to get to the next level, right? Even aside from fitness, you know, and other enemies, I had enemies throughout my entire life. Like, for example, with school, like, I was never good. I was terrible at math back in the day. And my ninth grade, 8th grade math teachers were my enemies, because these guys would always try and insinuate and tell me, oh, you're not good at math, you're not gonna be shit, yada, yada, yada. Like, they would say things like that to me. And that drove me to actually like want to improve my math ability and be like, nah, screw these guys. Like, I'm gonna work on my math skills so I can actually level up, right? Even in high school, I had enemies, I had teachers trying to insinuate that I wasn't smart enough to go to university. I had people tell me I wasn't smart enough to go to university, right? Those were enemies that I had, and that forced me to improve and get to the next level, right? So for you, you got to figure out, who are your enemies? Who are the people who you got to figure out? Better question, actually, who hurt you? Who hurt you? Figure out who hurt you, and then take that pain and anger and give it purpose. And then with that, use it to catapult you to the next level. Use it to get you to that level that you need to be at, right? And the thing with enemies too is that once you actually like reach the goals, whether it's like for myself, like reaching a certain weight and like, you know, getting into university and all that stuff. Once I achieve those goals, those enemies, they kind of fade into existence. You kind of just forget about them after, you know, because you've already defeated. Once you defeat the enemy, you can kind of move on and go on to the next enemy. Because in that book, it talked about you have to constantly find enemies to keep yourself going, right? And for me personally, I feel like I've defeated those enemies, and now my current goal is just trying to find new enemies to keep me going, right? But back to the main topic, which is for skinny guys, is you need to find an enemy. You need to find enemies that are gonna push you to actually get in the gym, stick to a routine, and keep going, right? And of course, if you're a skinny guy, you wanna make sure you're eating at a caloric surplus. Actually track your calories. Like, actually track your calories, type it into a Google calculator, type in your height and weight, and it will literally spit out how much you need to eat a day. Literally follow that, right? Follow that guideline that it tells you, okay, maybe you need 3,000 calories. Find meals that equal up to 3,000 calories. Make sure you're eating 1 gram of protein per body weight, or 0.7 if you want to get technical with it, right? Make sure you follow a meal plan that is 3,000 calories if that's what you need, and at 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per body weight. And then make sure you find a consistent routine where you feel like you're pushing yourself. Whether that, for example, push-pull legs. I think push-pull legs is a great way to start. Get on a push-pull leg split. Make sure that, you know, you're pushing yourself and you're practicing progressive overload with time under tension, which is making sure you're performing the workouts with a slow, controlled pace, and making sure you're upping the weight by 5 pounds every week, right? If you can't up it and you're plateauing, just make sure you go at a slow enough pace so you can still feel that burn and break those muscle fibers, right? Simple as that. But your main thing is the mindset, finding those enemies, and then figuring out like your routine and like figuring out how much you need to eat, right? Combine those two things and you will get jacked in 2025. And if you need help doing these things, hit the link in the description. I'm the guy for that. I can help you with that, and we'll see if it makes sense to work together so that we can reach your fitness goals, right? And I'll be there to hold your hand, pause every step of the way to help you reach your fitness goals, right? So if you like this video, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Remember, there's nothing enlightening about playing small, and send this to someone who needs to hear it, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.